Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a body better than me.
Saturday night in Houston, Texas, and here I am. I'm AD, and you might have noticed already this is not Third Coast Radio. Basically, this is the show that I do the rest of the week, and what happened was this. You're used to hearing me, super producer to the stars, Ken Webster Jr., and the king of ding, Ramon Robles Jr., doing Third Coast Radio on a Saturday night. And, well, Kenny was busy doing entirely more important super producer things, and Ramon was like, as much fun as it is hanging out with you, I note the sarcastic air quotes around the word fun, I just had a kid. The crown prince of ding is upon us, and I'd rather go spend time with my firstborn son than Saturday night with you. So Ramon's idea, he is the program director of KPRC in Houston, was like, hey, your usual talk show that you do every single day, it airs on iHeartRadio and on a station in Florida and whatnot. Why don't you just have the best of that from the week fill in for Third Coast Radio? So that's essentially what's happening here tonight. The AD show is filling in for Third Coast Radio, which is confusing for all of us, not least of which me, because, well, AD is part of Third Coast Radio. And anyways, say hello to super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser. He is my West Coast super producer, while Ken Webster is my Third Coast super producer. Say hello to Houston, Funk.
Hey, Houston.
Well done. Well played.
Good.
Yeah, that's you earning the super part of your super producer title. Good job. So we thought we'd give you a taste of what we do around here by running down some of the events of this past week just gone by. Like the unbelievable interview we had with Billy S. Gibbons of ZZ Top fame. Yep. He rolled through and talked about his new solo album. And he also talked about living in Houston and the restaurants in Houston. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, not only an incredibly gifted musician, but also a bit of a foodie. And I was surprised to find out that he eats at some of the same places that you and I eat on a regular basis. Also, we discussed the real reason for Robin Williams' death, according to his wife. A lot of people assumed it was depression that caused him to take his own life. Not so much. Also, whose job is it to raise your freaking kids? It's your job to raise your freaking kids. So this is what's going on around here tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out, being part of our radio family. Tweet me at ADSXE. Tweet super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser at FunkFM is where you can find him. Also, by the way, if any of this tickles your fancy, you can hear every single morning on the iHeartRadio app, or if you're in Florida on Real Radio 104.1 and just all sorts of other different places. Follow us. We'll keep you in the loop. Right now, though, bearing in mind that we're going to talk about Billy S. Gibbons of ZZ Top fame, about food, let's discuss the catch of the day as according to Brian Regan, shall we?
Hey, why is the catch of the day always fish? Don't they have to catch all the animals? What is the catch of the day? The catch of the day is cow. You'd think they'd be easy to catch, but this one knew something was up. He had these little juke moves. It was almost as if he didn't want to be slaughtered. It's a fancy restaurant. I like fancy restaurants, because no matter what you order, they compliment your choice. You get to feel good about yourself for a moment. What are you going to be dining on this evening, sir? I was going to have a hamburger. Excellent choice.
You've made an excellent choice by hanging out with us. I mean, even Billy S. Gibbons from ZZ Top thinks so, doesn't he, Funkhauser?
Have mercy. This is Billy S. Gibbons right here, and you're listening to AD on the radio.
Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top fame. Welcome to the show. Thank you so very much for gracing us with your presence today.
Well, you got it, man. We're ready to charge large with you. It's let's do it to it.
We're ready to make some radio magic today. Have you ever been asked to do voice work for for movies and stuff?
Yes, I did I used to do this children's program called the Power Rangers. And I was the bad guy. I was Vile Vine. Why did you come to my planet?
Are you kidding me? How did I miss that one? That's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my God,
it was crazy.
You have a solo album out, Perfectamundo, which is coming out on Friday, and this is the first solo record you've released, even though ZZ Top's been in the game for like 40 years, and I'm really curious to talk about that. But first and foremost, I wanted to know, like, I have this go-to question that whenever I get to talk to a great musician, I kind of ask him, because when I was a kid, I heard Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains interviewed once, and the DJ in England asked him, hey, if you had to pick one record or one song or one television appearance or one concert or something like that that made you go, okay, this is it, I have to do music, what would it be? And quick as a flash, old Jerry was like, oh, Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which is not something you'd expect from the guitar player of Alice in Chains. So that's kind of become my go-to. So for you, what would you say that would be?
Wow. When I was 5, my younger sister and I attended with my mom. We went down and saw, live and in person, Elvis Presley.
Wow.
You know, they just did it. I saw that, and I said, that's for me. Yeah. No question about it.
At age 5 years old, it all just became, all right, this is what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, I'd been banging on a metal garbage can since I was 3, so it all kind of made sense. Elvis had his band behind him, and they all had parts, and they all knew what to do, and it fell into place. As I looked upon that, that was a visual that stimulated all the dots connected. That was good.
And there's something very powerful about. Do you think it was seeing music played together by a group? I mean, like, you're 5, you're just connected. There's all sorts of dots you've only started to connect at 5 years old. But when you see the power of people playing music together, that's really something to kind of sort of behold. Do you think that had a lot to do with it, seeing like a band in action?
Exactly, and that is the key word. It was together. It was different people spread out far and wide, but at the same time, the experience was hearing it as one thing. They were together.
And didn't you, like, I seem to remember, because I'm kind of a Billy Gibbons fanatic, I got to be honest with you. So I've watched a lot of your interviews online and wherever I can find them. And there's a fantastic one that you did from Kid Rock's barn where you told the story of being taken out to different clubs and different places to see music. But was it your housekeeper?
Yeah, Stella, big Stella. Stella Matthews, she was, well, the mom, big Stella, then there was little Stella, then Dorothy, then Minnie, and then...
Oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, for those that haven't heard the story, big Stella, little Stella, Dorothy, Minnie, explain who these people are. Because, like, to you, these are just people in your life, but to people listening to this is like rock and roll history. This is like the foundation being laid for a legend. So please go a little deeper into this.
Yeah, it starts off with the question, well, how did this inspiration to, attempt to become an interpreter of this great art form, the blues, come about, and how that came about? And we had a housekeeper that resided over in Fourth Ward, and my dad, the orchestra leader dad, would find 3 or 4 nights a week, my younger sister Pam and I would spend the night with the housekeeper and her clan, and by the end of the day, Big Stella would be she'd be ready to retire at 8:00 at night. So when slumber came tiptoeing in, little Stella picked up the paces, grabbed me, and put my little sister in her arms, and down the street we went. There was a little, it was not little, it was a destination, a night spot. It was a black nightclub destination right there in Houston, and everybody came through town. You name it. Howlin' Wolf, Jimmy Reed, B.B. King, Muddy Waters, the whole line of blues. It's the who's who of blues lists. And
you were how old being taken by your babysitter to see you were taken by your babysitter at how old to see Howlin' Wolf and B.B. King?
I was 5. My sister was 3. Then it was 6, and then it was 7. We just didn't want to let it go.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I mean, sorry for making you retell a story that I'm sure you've told a bunch of times, but it's absolutely incredible. And your dad was like a concert pianist and an orchestra conductor. So if I'm getting this right, he would have to go to work, conduct the orchestra, which is something you do at night, and you got left with your housekeeper who would then take you to a club in 4th Ward in Houston. And by the way, I'm the afternoon guy on a station in Houston called The Buzz, so I know exactly the neighborhood you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And so she would take you there, like at age 5 when your dad was conducting an orchestra. So your classical musician father would leave the house and you would go get exposed to the blues. Like there was really nothing else you could do besides music. It was almost predestined.
Well, it was that pretty much carved in stone, I guess you'd say, at this point, looking back. Yeah, that corner was at the curve of Taft and West Gray. And
I know exactly where you're talking about.
You'd have to dig deep into the photographic history of that particular neighborhood. But I mean, it looks a little different now, but you know, some of those energies move on. In fact, there's another track off this new disc. Perfectamundo is not just the title of one song. It is one song, but there's another one, Picking Up Chicks on Dowling Street. And it's a little bit deeper into town, but you know, Dowling Street is still a very robust avenue. It was the you know, for the black part of Houston's giant community. Even back then, it's coming back to life now. I've even heard they're revitalizing the El Dorado Ballroom on Dowling Street.
Yeah, there's so much going on in Houston. It's just, you know, it's growing and it's growing. And it's like, which brings me to an interesting point. I don't know where you spend most of your time, but when I first moved from New York City to Houston, I remember I went to, I think it was an art show or something like that, or a gallery opening. And there you were, you know, like hanging out, taking pictures and really sort of like taking it very sort of, you're a very active part, it seemed at the time, of Houston's cultural scene. Is that something, do you still live there? Do you still stay there? Because it seems like you pop up there more often than not.
Oh, yeah. You can't get out of Houston. I mean, once you're there, you're there. You cannot get. Well, the heat won't let you get out of there. Yeah. My girlfriend went down there, and I said, "So it was your first trip out of Los Angeles? How'd you like Houston?" She goes, "I dig it, man. It's like trying to learn how to walk through mayonnaise."
It's totally true. Well, like here's the thing, though. I notice when like I'm in California that, you know, like, people don't understand the value of air conditioning outside of Texas. Like Houston, everybody's got it set to a chilly 65 at all times, and the only time you're uncomfortable really is when you leave the house till you walk to your car until your car cools down, and then you're all good. But then, like, you get to California, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's set to 72. It's beautiful. You get a cool breeze." I'm like, "I'm sweating. And they're like, "You're from Houston. You shouldn't be complaining." I was like, "Really? Try me, bitch. I'm complaining. I'm used to being 65 because I'm from the H."
Oh yeah.
So you can't get out of Houston no matter where you roam, no matter what you do, no matter how many times you go to places like Havana and play a jazz festival and get invited to make albums like the one you've just made. You're always going to be a Houston boy, you think?
I think so. I mean, we could spend the next day, we could spend the next decade just running the list of great restaurants. Someone said, Houston, Texas. Yeah, I said, well, it's a great music town, but it's also a great restaurant town. And I think due to the heat and you know, the bumper to bumper scene on any given avenue on any given time, a lot of people take refuge and they say, "Pull over, let's go in there. They got some good food in there."
Yeah, no, it's really true. Like, Houston, I think, got named the best restaurant town in all of America. People think Chicago, people think New York City, but you know what? I think the thing is, there's so many restaurants in Houston that if you don't come with the goods, you're not going to last more than a week. So you have to be excellent. Like, any restaurant in Houston that's been open more than a week and a half is going to be amazing. So,
yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about, look, you know, you've been up in the game for 40 years with ZZ Top, and this is your first ever solo album. And I think I know a little bit about how this came about with you being invited to play at, was it the Havana Jazz Fest?
It is. That's a standing invite. In fact, that's where this Billy Gibbons and the BFGs aggregation will open up. We go to Havana in the middle of December. We got three shows booked before we bring it back to these shores. But it's going to be an interesting outing. we cut a video for the lead single, which, speaking of Houston, Roy Head's great cornerstone of blues and R&B, whose song "Treat Her Right" from 1965 found its way to being given our Cubanized version. And cutting the video, I said, well, how do we wrap this up? And it gave us an opportunity to bring out something that everybody knows, all the famous American cars that are still left running in Cuba. And we've got this 1950 Ford, shiny red, chopped, repowered, repainted. It is the expression of Cuba, right there at the end of the Treat Her Right video. So it made sense.
Perfectamundo, for people that don't know, Billy Gibbons and the BFGs, your solo album, Perfectamundo, is out. And when I heard about it, I was like, don't take this the wrong way, but isn't every solo album sort of, I get the impression that you are the driving force behind it, and a lot of what ZZ Top is about is your vision. I was like, why would he need to do something different from ZZ Top? And then I listened to what it is. I was like, oh, this is not a ZZ Top record. This is Cuban jazz. And weren't you kind of like surprised when you were invited over to play a jazz festival?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
I said, how did my name wind up on a jazz roster of all things? And I guess we're still curious, but I know what we do. There's no getting around it. The blues influences will constantly be part of that thread. And at the same time, we didn't want to crash the party. We didn't want to miss the party. And we decided, well, let's just peel the onion and see if we can start making headway in that Cuban fashion, which I think, once you listen to it, it ain't ZZ Top. It's something really weird. I like it.
It's super cool. It's almost like when I first heard some of the clips off of the album, I was like, it almost sounds like Tom Waits to me. Like it's you, but it's, I don't know. It seems as though like messing with a different art form almost. It sort of freed you up to do some different things. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, the Tito Puente / Tom Waits cloud was constantly over the studio. My voice got scratchier and the timbales got louder.
That's good. Well, this brings me to an interesting point. Like, you've done so much. You've done so much. You've played with, for people that aren't aware, you've played with everyone from Ministry to Queens of the Stone Age to Kid Rock and now Latin Jazz and Brooks and Dunn. You've got a recurring role on the TV show Bones. You have your own barbecue and hot sauce. And it seems like you have this attitude of just saying yes to everything that life throws at you. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because, look, you've been doing this a long time, and it seems like just obviously a person goes through life and makes their own opportunities, but you seem to have an attitude where opportunities come to you. Why is that? I mean, is it just saying yes to stuff that seems a little off the wall?
Yeah.
Like a jazz festival, okay.
Yeah. It is embracing that passion. It's all around us. You just got to, it's bubbling under, so why not let it boil? And, like when somebody lights the fuse, then you got to go out and light the fire. And I think I speak for my partner, Frank Beard, the man with no beard, sitting at
the man with no beard, and ZZ Top, the one guy without a beard.
Go on. And Dusty Hill, our fearless bass player. We've constantly tried to figure out what is that similar element that it's getting to enjoy what we get to go do. And that's one part of it. I think the other challenge is accepting that propellancy. We don't know who's going to make the first mistake, so we're constantly on our toes.
Right. But I mean, where would you say that attitude comes from? Because, I look at your body of work, and I know this is a little deep and a little esoteric, but I look at your body of work and look at everything that you've accomplished and look at everything that you're still accomplishing. I was like, so many people, so many artists bend themselves all out of shape, and kind of go against the grain of life, where you seem to have found a way to absolutely swim with the current and let life take you into some really cool places, yet direct yourself at the same time. Where do you think that attitude comes from? Was it your parents? Was it your upbringing? Was it Stella? You know, like how does a guy get like that? I'm asking because I want to be like that. Like, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and there's one simple phrase that seems to resonate, and I think everybody can learn to play what you want to hear. And if you're going to strum on a guitar, bang on the drums, hit the keyboard, it's just that. It's first of all, it's all in the hands. And if you can get that muscle memory to fall in line, learn to play what you want to hear, and then you got it. At least you're on your way.
Well, I think it's a great metaphor for life as well. If there's something you want to do, I guess what you're telling us to do is create it. I was expecting to talk about music. I was expecting to talk about the new album Perfectamundo, which is out this Friday, and how everybody should go get it because it really is an entertaining listen. If you're into ZZ Top, if you're into Billy Gibbons, then this is something that you definitely won't want to miss. And even if you're not, it's definitely something that you won't want to miss. But I feel as though we got some life lessons from not only a legend, but a legend from the great city of Houston. Thank you very much. I can't tell you how much it meant to talk to you here today, and I could talk your ear off for an hour and a half, and still have tons more questions that I'm dying to ask you. So maybe you'll come back sometime, but if not, this has been an absolute honor.
Well, my pleasure, and having the opportunity to conduct this exchange, I think we can expand our horizons from arroz and frijoles with this Cuban twist. Now we can have black beans and plantains. Let's go for it.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever, just out of curiosity, have you ever eaten at Chacho's on Westheimer?
Ah, love it. Love Chacho's. Yeah, man. Come on.
I find that in Houston, there's different places that do different things really well, but absolutely nobody beats their case. Have you had the spinach and mushroom quesadilla? They're the only place in town that does that. I think.
And they do it right. They absolutely do it right. Yeah. You and I'll have to get together. We'll put the burn on. I'll bring over the guacamole recipe, and we'll leave the rest of it to guesswork. If we could eat Mexican food one day together, I could leave this mortal coil a happy and satisfied man, having had so much more happen to me than I ever thought would. Billy Gibbons, you're a scholar, you're a gentleman, you're a genius, and maybe one day we get to split a quesadilla. Thank you so much. You're welcome, brother. We'll see you soon, senor. Bueno.
Take it easy, Chief.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio.
Every day you're going and working, running that rat race at that pace and that place will leave a bad taste for anyone, everyone, working day after day. So buddy, I gotta say, for you, there's gotta be a better way, yeah. And you do what they told ya, company man, public, a mindless little soldier. How can you live like that and maintain your composure? Before it's begun, your life's already freaking over, yeah. I do what I want, when I want, how I want.
So, depression, you can just say depression. And pretty much everybody listening to you will go, whew, yeah. As the great Henry Rollins once said, if you're one of those people that are like, ha, 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 I never get depressed, you're a liar and you're boring. Everybody deals with it. And I don't know if you deal with it in a chronic sort of way or in a clinically diagnosed kind of way, or if you just find yourself getting bummed out, or everybody's been depressed. We've all been there. We all know it. We all, in some way, shape, or form, understand it. We all have an intimate knowledge of depression. Yet, we wind up being so wildly unsympathetic toward it in other people. I don't know. I don't necessarily have as much time for looking after other people with depression as maybe I should, given the fact that I've struggled with it pretty much my entire life. But maybe that's because when I see someone unable to kind of break free of some form of depression, I see a little bit too much of myself in that. Because when I get depressed, when I suffer from depression, I consider it to be a sign of weakness, which it's not. It's chemicals in your body. And there's all sorts of things that can lead to it, both internal and external. Depression is something that we all understand, we all relate to, we all have an intimate knowledge of, yet we seem so unwilling in a lot of instances to recognize it in other people. Now, as it turns out, depression did not kill Robin Williams, according to his wife. Depression did not kill Robin Williams. There was this, narrative floating around ever since he committed suicide that it was depression that led him to it. He'd been clinically depressed his entire life. On and off various kinds of meds, dealing with different forms of substance abuse and all of the above. And a lot of people thought the depression got the better of him. And I don't know where that story started, but it was one that the public and the media seemed happy to keep alive. Most people think Robin Williams committed suicide because he was depressed, but Susan, his widow, says that's not the case. She said it was actually a condition called Lewy body dementia, which they didn't even know he had until after his death. She said the depression was about 1 of 50 symptoms, and it was a small one. Lewy body dementia is the second most common neurodegenerative disease after Alzheimer's. And the other symptoms of it include things like fluctuating mental status and hallucinations and impaired motor function. And things got progressively worse, apparently, in the months leading up to Robin Williams' death. He was having these massive anxiety attacks. And he had a, quote, miscalculation with a door that resulted in a bloody head wound. Susan said that after Robin's autopsy, one of the doctors told her, quote, Robin was very aware that he was losing his mind and there was nothing he could do about it. I don't know. Being aware, being a man with a brilliant mind, and then being aware that you're losing it. Saying that depression didn't kill Robin Williams. Well, depression can come from a lot of different places. It can be that clinical depression, which is based on your internal balance of chemicals and it being off. Yeah, there's that. Or depression can be circumstantial. And it can set upon you because of external circumstances. And it can actually alter your body's chemistry where it'll make you clinically depressed. And I don't know. I'm no doctor. I'm no psychologist. I'm not any kind of an understanding of the way. I don't have any real kind of in-depth understanding of the way a person's brain works. I just know what I've figured out when dealing with my depression over the years. But I have some knowledge of this. My grandfather was arguably a great man. He stormed the beaches at Normandy. He was British intelligence in the Second World War. He stormed the beaches at Normandy. He was a very large part of that. And he was kissed by de Gaulle. He was a war hero, doing some really kind of awesome cloak and dagger stuff. And then he went on to run a company. He went on to run a company called Reckitt and Coleman. Mustard people. Yeah, that's what he did. That's why he moved to America. That's why I'm an American. But the other thing that made my grandfather great was not so much his achievements. It was the way he treated people. If you talk to people that knew him, they would always tell you he had a magical way of, no matter who you were or what he was talking to you about, you could have been high up in some form of government, or you could have been the garbage man. He had a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. He gave everybody his full attention and his full respect. So when he started to deal with his own form of dementia, it was especially tough. She says that he didn't commit suicide because of depression. He was suffering from Lewy body dementia, which is sort of like Alzheimer's. And a doctor told her, quote, Robin was very aware that he was losing his mind and that there was nothing he could do about it. Robin Williams was a man with an absolutely brilliant mind. It worked in a way that other people's minds just don't. And it worked in a way that allowed him to be unbelievably entertaining on a massive scale to so many people. It was a brilliant mind. And if that's who you are, if that's what you have in this world, your mind. Maybe you weren't some sort of super athlete. Maybe you, I don't know, not the tallest, smartest, strongest, best looking person in the room. But your mind works in a way that other people find attractive. If that's what you've got to, if that is what you've got to, if that's what you've got to offer the world, then to lose that is a tough one. Like I was saying, my grandfather was kind of a brilliant man. British intelligence, stormed the beaches at Normandy in the Second World War, kissed by de Gaulle. Went on to run Reckitt and Coleman, the mustard people. French's mustard. You like that stuff? My grandfather would tell you, you're welcome. No, he wouldn't, because he was an incredibly humble man. A lot of things on paper. The Oxford education, the British intelligence work, the running a massive company would tell you that my grandfather was a great man. But what's funny is when you talk about him with people that knew him, when you talk about him with family members, all those things, I suppose, factor in when people say, hey, yeah, he was a great guy. But really, what it all comes down to, what made him great, was the fact that he could be talking to a millionaire, to a head of state, to the CEO of a company, or he could be talking to the garbage man. And he would give whoever he was talking to his full attention and treat them with the utmost of respect and dignity, no matter who they were. He had a way of making absolutely everyone that he came into contact with feel special. And that, I think, was what made him a great man. So it was tough. It was tough when he started to deal with dementia. Now, I was too young to really fully appreciate what was going on at the time. I knew that he was having some issues. I remember, he loved tennis. He loved tennis. He loved to play tennis. He loved to watch tennis. He kept up with it. He loved to watch Wimbledon on TV. And I'll never forget being a kid and watching Wimbledon with him. And, after the match was over, seeing him stand up to shake the hand of Boris Becker, or whoever it was that had won Wimbledon that year. Stood up to shake his hand and offer him some of the peanuts that he was eating as he was happily watching him on TV. Now, it was kind of sweet. It really was. I don't know. I think there's part of your nature as a human being that is evidenced when you're in a compromised position. Like if you wake up in the middle of the night, say you're lying in bed at night and you're woken up by your significant other. If you wake up all crabby, like, oh, what do you want? That's you with your guard down. But if you wake up going, is everything okay? You all right? Don't worry, everything's going to be cool. Can I get you anything? You need a glass of water? Kind of sort of says something about who you are. And even with the emotional armor of his intellect being stripped away from him, my grandfather maintained that kindness of spirit that treated everyone around him like they really, really mattered. Because to him, they did. And as I look back on his story, which I thought of a lot this morning when I found out that another man with a brilliant mind had it taken from him by a neurodegenerative disease. As I found myself thinking of my grandfather after hearing about Robin Williams, I started thinking about what must it have been like for a guy like that. You know that expression, gentleman and a scholar? That's what my grandfather was. He was a gentleman and he was a scholar. And when he wasn't kind of hazy, I know he was aware of what was happening to him. And I can't imagine that would have been easy in any way, shape, or form. But I noticed as a kid, like, I'd always been told, like, hey, old people, when they get sick, they get cranky. So if they're mean to you or harsh to you, it's not you. Just understand. Yeah, it's not you. But I remember being around my grandfather at this time. And no matter what he was going through, the evidence of the kindness of his nature was always there. I would see him trail off sometimes, and I would just kind of stand with him as a kid, wait until he came back, or maybe he wouldn't come back for a little while, and we'd go into the other room. But I remember as a kid thinking, you know, I've been told not to get upset when old people that might be sick or older get cranky and yell at me or have a harsh word. Or I remember thinking, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what my grandfather's going through. He treats me the same way he always did. And as a kid, I thought about it. As an adult, thought about it even more. For him to keep that spirit of kindness alive in his heart, no matter what he was going through. No matter that, like I said, the emotional armor of his intellect was being stripped away from him. To, at his core, have kindness toward me and everyone around him was a real lesson to me. It was a real lesson to me. And it was a lesson to me in that it taught me to be kind to those around me. Because if you didn't know my grandfather, if you didn't know what he was going through, you never would have guessed a lot of the time. Just like the family of Robin Williams didn't know. His wife only found out about this after his autopsy. Doctor told her that her husband was aware he was losing his mind and that there was nothing he could do about it. So it's a lesson to us. At all times, be kind. For everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Wendy Mass, Candy Makers.
Back once again, AD on the radio.
Do we want to do more news? What do we want to do? Do we want to do more news, or do we want to talk about that? Oh, you know, actually, something that did happen that kind of freaked me the hell out. It's time as parents to panic, because, well, kids got needles, cough syrup, and prescription drugs on Halloween. Did you see this? It's kind of crazy. Really? People today pop prescription drugs like they're absolutely candy. We're aware they're not, but we still take them. And a pharmacy in Quebec City, Canada, somehow managed to accidentally hand out bipolar meds to trick-or-treaters on Halloween. Canada. That's what, you know what that is? That's socialized medicine at work. Yeah, these really are like candy. They don't actually cost anything. You have some, and you have some, and you have some. We can all have some. They cost $1 to make. They cost $1 for you. So no problem. They don't take as much care when they're not being charged like $700 a pill. Anyways. Pharmacy in Quebec, Canada, managed to accidentally hand out bipolar meds to trick-or-treaters on Halloween. This is what happened. Apparently, customer dropped some of the pills, and since they are individually wrapped, someone mistook them for candy and put them in a bowl on the counter. Like, I wonder if they were bipolar chews. You know, a little chalky, but good. And as kids came by and took the candy, At least 7 of them got bipolar meds instead. Here's the thing. The pharmacist says the pill's not dangerous. Don't have to worry about really anything. There's some potential side effects like suicidal thoughts and sudden cardiac arrest, but it doesn't like...
Oh, just those?
Yeah, just those. But still, doesn't look like the pharmacy will be in any legal trouble. Oh, Canada, where you can't commission lawsuits. That's one thing about the cultures that we live in. And if the law is... If the law is the same in Canada as it is in England, when you sue somebody, it's illegal for the lawyer to take a commission on the lawsuit. Meaning, if you're taking a 10% commission, and you sue someone for $10,000, the lawyer can't go, my cut of this is $1,000. It's a flat fee. You got to pay the legal costs, and that's it. So, as a result, you have significantly less ambulance chasing going on in places like England and Canada, which, makes it a less egregiously, overly litigious society. Which, I don't know. Maybe it has its pros and cons. The pros being, well, it's not a sue-happy society where malpractice insurance shoots through the roof and all the above, but... The other thing is, sometimes people who are well within their rights to sue someone can't afford to do it because, they can't afford the flat fee to begin with. I don't know. I don't want to get mired down in all of it. But I do know that as a kid in a band, it was a lot more fun being a kid in a band in England because you can't commission lawsuits because people aren't as sue happy. Mosh pits were a part of the culture there that was loved and accepted. They had rules about, the proper ways to mosh, like don't stage dive feet first. Don't stage dive if you're wearing like Doc Marten boots or something like that, and just be courteous and be careful, have a lot of fun. And for that reason, you would see bouncers in England sort of like giving kids legs up so they could do better stage dives and be more majestic. And just, it was a fun, inclusive thing. Whereas when my band got to America, I remember our accountants and our lawyers being like, okay, you got to start a touring company. It's got to be a limited liability corporation in case someone tries to sue you. They can't go after your personal possessions or your money. I was like, whoa. And they're like, here is a statement saying that you will never encourage a mosh pit. I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, you can't ever encourage a mosh pit. I was like, that's sort of what we do. And they're like, do you ever encourage... Yeah, they're like, do you ever encourage stage diving? I was like, yeah. And they're like, hold on, do you ever stage dive? I was like, And they were like, oh, my God, you are 18 million lawsuits waiting to happen. And that was the big difference between being a kid in a band in England and being a kid in a band in America. Not so Sue happy. But, yeah, so no legal action against the Canadian pharmacy that handed out bipolar meds instead of candy. The bipolar meds with the side effect of cardiac arrest and suicidal thoughts. No one's suing them because it's they're
all like, sorry, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. There's no big Canadian dollars to be made off of that lawsuit, so they're in the clear. That's not the only sketchy trick or treating report from Halloween in Pennsylvania. In Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, and Brainerd, Minnesota, there were reports of like sewing needles and candy. And in North Reading, Massachusetts, kids got samples of cough syrup instead of candy. And in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, a kid found a razor blade inside a Snickers bar. And the cops are investigating in all 4 cities. The police are investigating. The police are investigating in all 4 cities. It's crazy stuff. I was thinking about this when I came across this story, and I can't possibly imagine. I cannot possibly imagine for one tiny second the rationale of a person who would not only want to harm an innocent child, but an innocent child that they didn't know. They wouldn't be around when this took effect. If you poisoned some candy or if you put a sewing needle in some candy, it's really, I can't, oh man, I would hate to become a criminal profiler or something like that where I understood what type of person did that immediately and their motivations, because it's just such an ugly side of humanity that I cannot in any way, shape, or form relate to. I just don't get it. It's scary, it's ugly, and it just blows my mind, because I always thought that was an absolute urban legend. But it brings up an interesting point, and that point is, when you have a kid, it's your job to look after them. Look into their Halloween candy. Look into who they're talking to. Look into what they're doing on the internet. And as it turns out, those difficult conversations that are tough to have with kids, you got to have them. Why? Well, look, most parents don't want to have the sex talk with their kids. Super awkward. And you got to figure that between sex ed in school and talking with their friends and 20 bazillion videos online, they're going to get educated without your talk, right? No. Not even close. You're going to be a parent, be a parent. If you're going to bring life into this world, look after that life. You have to suck it up and have the talk. New study out of North Carolina State University found that the best way to get kids to make smart choices about sex, in a day and age where apparently 2/3 of the population has herpes and everyone thinks, oh, herpes, it's itchy. No, maybe for a guy it's itchy and it's unpleasant. For a girl, it increases the risk of getting cancer of your reproductive organs. It's a big deal. It is a big deal. You got to talk to your kids about this and everything. This new study out of North Carolina State University found the best way to get kids to make smart choices about sex, which absolutely impact every second of their future, is to have their parents talk to them about it. Researchers found that parents' voices, the sound of a parental voice, that manages to stand out in their teenage hormone-addled brains, even though they're bombarded with information about sex from a ton of different directions. Scientifically proven that if you have a kid, your voice as a parent stands out in your kid's mind. Teenagers who have the sex talk with their parents wait longer to have sex, and they're more likely to use protection once they do. Teenagers who have the sex talk with their parents get fewer STDs, fewer accidental pregnancies. And look, this is absolutely, I think, a metaphor for pretty much everything to do with your life. You want to bring a child into this world? It's your job to raise that child. It's not the school's job. It's not their peers' job. It's not anyone's job other than yours. That life that you brought in to this world, kicking and screaming, is 100% your responsibility. And a lot of people think, well, only till they're 18. No. Till the day you die, really, as much as it shouldn't be. Till the day you die. The sound of your voice is going to be something that speaks to your children more than anything else. Don't ignore that. It's like what we talk about on this show all the time. Anything external. Politicians. This upcoming election in 2016. The last couple of elections. People sold on these vague notions of hope or change. They just want hope and change. That sounds good. My life's in a hole. I should change it. I need some hope. Where can I get hope and change? Oh, clearly from a politician. Yeah, that's where I'm going to get my hope and or change. No. It's you. It comes down to you. We talk about this all the time. I talk about this with you all the time, mostly because I'm reminding myself. If I'm not happy with the status quo, it's my job to change it. If you don't like the way your day lays out when you wake up in the morning, if you don't like how you feel when you wake up in the morning, you're the only person that has any power or control over that or any influence over that. You don't have control, but you have influence. You make the decision every single day when you wake up that you're going to write your own story and decide how your days go. Don't live at the effect of the rest of the world. Take life by the short and curlies. Have the sex talk with your kid. Have the talk with your boss about how you deserve more and you're going to get more, whether it's there or someone else. Well, look, I'm not telling you to go to your boss's office all half-cocked, but take action for yourself. Make the changes in your life. It's only you that can do it. Thank you so much for hanging out.
You know how a lot of times you feel like it's cool to turn the other cheek and give people the benefit of the doubt even when they don't deserve it.